Hello guys, here is a Heritage furneaux ceiling fan. Let's take a look at the informations. They are on top of the motor, I know that. Just have to find where it is. I think this is where it is. This is rated at 0.46 amps. It's from June of 1998. I got this fan from a listing on Face Rip You Off, Steal Your Data, provides zero customer service. Lying, dishonest, stupid garbage book platform. I paid $10 for this, which I think was a pretty good deal for one of these fans. And before I go any further, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of people in the comments box saying garbage like, oh, this is a Heritage. It's going to be super horrible quality. The airflow is so abysmal. You need to make a destruction video out of this. Ugh, this is the most disgraceful thing on earth. Please destroy it. Well, fun fact, all those comments I think are very uncalled for, because I like Heritage fans in the first place. I have a lot of nostalgia to them, and I think they are pretty good fans for the price point they were sold in. These Heritage fans back in the 90s and the 2000s, I think were pretty good for the price point. And no, they're not as good as something like a Hunter Beacon Hill or any 42-inch fan from like the 80s, etc. I mean, I know that. I agree with that. But for the era these were sold in and the price point, I think these are pretty solid fans for what they are. These fans, I think were sold for like $35 in 1998, which I think was a pretty good deal for something like this back then. I don't know. I didn't live in the 90s. This fan was made 10 years before I was born, so I really don't know much about all this stuff. If you're an older person that lived through that time period and you remember exactly how much these were sold in, please let me know in the comments box. I will gladly appreciate the feedback. But these fans were sold for, I would say, a pretty economical price back in the 90s. And while this probably doesn't perform like a Hunter Beacon Hill or actually I'm going to say a better example, Casablanca Lady Delta, this probably doesn't perform like that, but it also doesn't aspire to. I mean, the Casablanca Lady Deltas were probably hundreds of dollars. This was probably, I'd say 30 or 35. 40, I would say, would probably be the maximum this would have been sold back then. But as I said earlier, I didn't live through that time period, so I'm kind of just guessing. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys the fan into action. Here's the light. I'm using a 40-watt incandescent light bulb. Here's low. I'm going to get my anemometer here so we can test the airflow. Now the blades are not 100% in clock, but this was taken down with the blades attached, so that's kind of what's expected. I think this is up to speed now. Let's see if I can do a manometer test on this fan. I'm going to go with 137 feet per minute. The area that I'm going to use for this fan is going to be 9.1. So 9.1 times 137. I think we said earlier I'll do another test just to make sure. Yep, 137. That's going to be 1,247 CFM, rounding to the nearest tenth. This low, I would say, is pretty fast. I would prefer it a little bit slower, but this is okay. I mean, that's probably a good functional low. When I think of a low on ceiling fans, I think of an aesthetic low where you can see the exact shape of the blade irons as it runs. So this is drawing 24 watts and 0.2 amps. And the power factor, which we'll have to get voltage, it's 121 that we're testing it on. 121 times, I think we said 2.2. Yep. 0.2 amps is what I should have said. Did I say 2.2? I meant 0.2. Gosh, that is a lot of current. So the power factor on this is 0.99, which that's a pretty good power factor. So I think this is a winding-based speed control system, which is good for the power factor, but not super good for noise. This example here, other than the motor hum, which I find very pleasing, it doesn't seem like it's making a super annoying buzz. I mean, it does a little bit of a hum, but I would argue that it's a peaceful hum, in my opinion. And medium. And I don't know if you guys can hear that hum. You probably could, but I think it's very peaceful. I really do like it. I would definitely use this in a bedroom. So let's do a CFM test for that. It's like we're gonna do with 315 is what it says. So 315 times 9.1 is 2,867 CFM. And our power information is 37 watts and 0.3 amps. With a power factor of the power factor of 1. So excellent power factor for medium. And now high. And then that hum does get pretty loud, which, as I said earlier, is very peaceful in my opinion. Alright. Now let's do a CFM test for that. Looks like we're getting, let's do another test here. We're gonna go with 472. That's pretty high. So 472 times 9.1 is 4,295 CFM. And so the conclusion is, with the CFM on this, that is really quite good for a 42-inch fan. The vast majority of 42-inch fans I have tested, even some of the better ones in my collection, like the Boston Harbor fans, they don't get that good. And I have plenty of arguably more respectable models in bigger sizes that don't get anywhere near like that. Like that Hunter baseball fan that I had before, that one only did 3,000 CFM, which is very average for the 44-inch category, but it was nothing to write home about. This right here was a very cheap fan back in the 90s, in the very early 2000s. But the CFM rating on this is really quite remarkable. I really do not understand what people's problems are with these Heritage fans. I think they're perfectly nice fans, and not to mention 4,295 CFM. That's above average for a 42-inch fan. So I do not understand what people's problems are with these Heritage fans. As I said before many times, I like Heritage fans simply because they're nostalgic to me. But the fact they work good, and the price on them were not that bad, just makes them so much better. And before I forget, let's do the power information. This is drawing 56 watts and 0.46 amps. So that's exactly what it said on the motor tag. And the power factor is 1. So, yeah, great power factor on all speeds. I'll give Heritage some respect for that. Great airflow and a low price back in the 90s. Still working 28 years later. Well, it's not June yet, but it's going to be 28 years old in June. Probably will work just fine by then. So, I have some pretty valid arguments to say that I think Heritage fans are perfectly good, even though people seem to have a very huge problem with them. Like, I'm going to give you guys 2 places in particular. There's an antique store that's actually not too far from where I live. That has Heritage Alexis ceiling fans all around the store. They're 30 years old, or more than 30 years old. They're in great shape and they're running perfectly. 20 or 30 years later. I have a friend from school that the house I visit to quite often. There's Heritage ceiling fans all around that house. They won't let me record in that house, so unfortunately I don't have pictures to show you guys, but those are 20 or 30 years old. They're in great shape, running perfectly. And they're still moving great air. I really do not understand why people have so many issues with these fans. Because the furneaux in particular is a very powerful fan. I have a Land Chaser 52 inches. That one really doesn't have anything to write home about. It's average performance, but it's really nothing terrible. I mean, I have had 52-inch fans before. Not Heritage ones, but I have had other ones before that don't even make it to 4,000. So, I really think people should be respecting Heritage fans more than what they are. Not to mention, in the late 90s and early 2000s, they really kept some like 1980s designs. The furneaux in particular. Although this one is from 1998, they didn't really cease production until around 2003 or so. and it looks like a typical spinner you would find in the 80s. Like, I think there was a fan made by Encon. I think it was the Encon Primer. I could be totally wrong on that, but Encon in the 1980s made a fan like that, and that was, I think, a pretty good fan. And also the Heritage Lexus. In 2000, they kept the cane blades, and that was a style you would find in the 80s. And the Lexus really is nothing to write home about in terms of airflow, but it still works perfectly fine 20 or 30 years later. So, therefore, I have very good reasons to say that I think Heritage made pretty solid fans of the time. And that people really should stop being so destructive with these and abusing them and all this trash. It's probably coming from younger people in particular that just listen to all the lies that one person said and just spreads out the entire fan community, which it's just so dumb and toxic. The only destruction videos I ever do are wattage limiters, and for good reason. They suck. Alright, I'm gonna reverse the fan, which unfortunately the reverse switch is reversed, which I have seen higher end fans have in the same way. It's very counterintuitive, but I do know there are higher end fans that did that. Probably not intentionally. But yep, it works in reverse. I'll turn it off here. And I'm going to show you guys the startup sound because it's really quite good. Not to mention the bearings in this thing are quiet. Alright, I'm going to turn this thing back off so I can end the video. Alright. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.